Good morning, everybody. It's Claire Jones here from Your One Life Healthy Weight Solutions, and I'm here with you on Monday, the 5th of June 2023 for episode 44 of Monday Morning Matters. Now, as it's a new month, we have a new theme, and this month's theme is portion control. And I've chosen this because this is something that many people struggle with. And I know that, it's something that I certainly used to struggle with. Thankfully, I don't anymore. But I know how difficult it really can be. And the things that I'm going to be talking with you about this month, I'm going to take it in stages as I usually do. So for those of you who are new to the group, very warm welcome. Just to explain a little bit about how the Monday Morning Matters themes work. So every month I choose a new theme, and I tend to choose the themes that are relevant to the things that people have been talking about in the group, which is obviously an indication of what people are struggling with. So I then take you through a series of videos where I just talk about the problem and perhaps talk a little bit more about why it's such a problem. Then I start talking about practical things that you can do, and then I go on to talking about how I can help you with that. So today we're going to be really focusing on what is the problem with portion sizes today. So if you are watching live, I'd love it if you say hello in the comments, because what that does is it helps me to know that somebody's there, for one thing, so I know I'm not talking to myself. And it also helps other people to know that I've gone live, because it will pop up on their news feed. And also it tells Facebook that you like to see these kinds of videos, and so you'll get to see more of them, and hopefully more of my videos if you are a member of this group and want to be. So without further ado, I'm going to make a start. I've written a few notes down just to keep you on track, because I do have a tendency sometimes to go a bit off track sometimes. So basically, the main reason that portion sizes are a problem is not necessarily the portion sizes themselves, it's where they sit in the context of the rest of our lives. So for example, if you were to think about, historically, you would think of perhaps some of the more wealthy members of society would be having these giant banquets, and they would be literally eating all day, because as humans we are designed to overeat. We're designed to eat when food is available, so that we can then store the excess that we don't need as body fat to use when food is not available. But the problem, of course, that we now have is that we're living in a society where if we're fortunate enough to have enough money to spend on food and drink and the things that we need, that we're never short of food. There is no shortage of food at all for most of us. And we can have whatever we want whenever we want it. Just got to ring up or go on the Just Eat app or Deliveroo or Uber Eats and order whatever you want whenever you want it. Our shopping is delivered online, or we go into the supermarkets and we're just faced with a huge variety of so many different foods. We're in a service society where everything revolves around food, and we're meeting up for friends. Oh, let's go for a drink, let's go for something to eat, let's go for a coffee, let's go for and then the coffee isn't just a coffee, is it? And everything revolves around food. Our whole social lives revolve around food. And in the past, those big banquets, those big meals that people would have would be infrequent. Not only that, if you think about, just maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, our lifestyles were very different. So we might have had big meals because we weren't snacking during the day. But now we're still having the big meals and we're snacking during the day, and we're eating out regularly. We're getting takeaways regularly. So portion size on its own isn't such a big deal, but it's when we're having these big portions every day, or most days, or several times a day, and we're also snacking, we're eating when we're not hungry. It's looking at this in the context of the rest of our lives that we're having to contend with, and the societal pressure to always do things that revolve around food. And something I read recently in relation to, there's something called the Times Health Commission, where they're looking at the problems, the health problems that we as a society are facing. And the way that we eat now is likened to how smoking was seen in the 1970s. Very, very acceptable, very social, but also it was starting to become very apparent that it was incredibly bad for our health. And so over time, the governments did lots of things to discourage smoking. So, you now can't smoke inside. If you are in any kind of public building, you have to go outside. So it's kind of less socially acceptable. They've put the prices of cigarettes up so that they are incredibly expensive, to try and discourage people from spending their money on it. And it is working, because over time, the number of smokers has reduced drastically. Now, the problem with the way that we eat is that the problem is getting worse. The statistics are really quite scary. In 2021, there was the statistics for the UK showed that 64% of the adult UK population were either overweight or obese. So that's 2/3 of the population, and it's getting worse. So this isn't a problem faced by the individual. This is a problem faced by society, and we as individuals within that society are caught up in this culture. And unless we, as those individuals, make the decision to actually change something for ourselves, we are going to be destined to be overweight and continue to be overweight and continue to get more overweight. And portion sizes is a massive factor in this. So that is one of the things that we as individuals can do something about. We can reduce our portion sizes. We can think about how frequently we eat. All of those things we can take responsibility for. Yes, the influences around us do make it more challenging, but we are still individuals that are responsible for our own behaviour. So if we can see the impact that our behaviour is having, then we are more able to do something about it. So when it comes to portion sizes, if you just go shopping or you go onto a takeaway app, or you go to a restaurant, we are basically encouraged to eat as much as possible, are we not? So, supersized portions. Would you like to go large? Would you like extra fries with that? Would you like a side with that? Would you like a buy one, get one free? And so, of course, we do. But the problem is, if we're also snacking during the day and we're having portion sizes that are more than we need at every meal, we are going to continue to put on weight. Now, I've spoken previously about the fact that in order to put on a stone in a year, which is quite a long time, and that would be a very, very slow creep of weight gain, we only need to eat 120 calories extra a day, more than what our bodies need. Now, if we're having large portion sizes, we're easily going to be exceeding that, and so you can see how quickly the weight can pile on. Now, in terms of what I'm going to be talking about next week, I'm going to be talking about what is an appropriate portion size, so that you can start to get a feel for what changes you could start to make. But if you just think about, just for a moment, I'll just sort of leave you with this thought that, if you imagine that, our stomachs are only, probably about sort of that big, and they sit just here. And then you look at a plate of food, and if your plate of food is much larger than that, how much of that food do you think your body actually really needs? So it's starting to just become more aware of how much you're eating whenever you eat, and is it going to take up more space than what your stomach would naturally hold, or is it going to need to stretch? And if it's going to need to stretch, then it may be that you're eating more than you need. So just a little thing just to keep you going with something before we come on to next week, where I start talking about how you can understand what is an appropriate portion size. Another thing I just want to leave you with as well is just to remember that, just because food is there, it doesn't mean we have to eat it. Okay, we have the choice. We can decide to not eat as much as we're given. Just because it's there, it does not mean we need to eat it. We are hardwired to eat it because, as I said earlier, we are hardwired to overeat when food is available, and so we do. And so what we have to bear in mind is that you know, from a rational perspective, and you think, yeah, okay, that's a sensible portion, or that's a bit too big. But when we're in the middle of eating it, and eating it is don't forget, eating and desire for food are very much part of our survival instincts. It's very, very hard to overcome that. So by being more aware of that's what's happening, and also by perhaps thinking about how much do you really need in any given meal, bearing in mind you're going to be eating again a few hours later, how can you start to become more aware of the portion sizes? And I'll talk a bit more about in week 3 about practical things that you can do. But in the meantime, hopefully that's given you something to think about. And so just over the next week, just be aware of your portion sizes, and remember that actually you get to choose. Nobody else is choosing for you. You get to choose how much you eat. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week for what is an appropriate portion size. I'll take care. Have